Hi guys, and welcome to a more in-depth review of the REECHO UCCon SG03s. This is the latest single DD from REECHO, an upgrade over the original SG03. Some specs here in the back and the box itself over here. You open it up, IMs over there as you can see, and inside the carrying case, which is the usual carrying case that REECHO uses, we have KB07 tips, we have some other narrow bore silicons, the cable, some wide bores, the interchangeable nozzles, black, the stock ones that come on the actual IM are the silver ones. Okay, the cable, although it doesn't look like anything special, surprisingly the cable actually measured quite decently, and I'm using the stock cable. Anyway, I've got two sets as you can see. I've got this one here, which I bought to do easier comparisons with the other set. When I was interchanging the nozzles, it was just easier to have one set already done with one nozzle and another set with the other nozzle. As I was saying, this one uses the silver nozzle. You can see it's got a relatively short nozzle length, which is good and bad. There's ample base, so it doesn't affect the base, but being short does mean that, in my case at least, I can't insert it as deep as ideally I would like. Excuse me, and then that can bring with it some issues in terms of peakiness in certain parts of the frequency range. But otherwise, it's a very well built IEM, as you can see. Beautiful shell. It's got a nice weight to it. It does fit nicely. I mean, it is very well designed ergonomically. I'm using the as you can see, I'm using the 07 tips, the stock ones that it brought. Okay, I'm not using the other one that I've got there, is the one that's got the black nozzle, and that black nozzle has also have a little mod done to it. But as I said, I used this one with the stock silver nozzle to just be easier to swap around between the two of them and compare them. Let me just put this one over here so that we can just chat a little bit better. Anyway, in terms of what it's used as a 10 millimeter LCP diaphragm, which usually LCP diaphragms are not known for having a lot of extension up top, but somehow the way that they've tuned this, they've actually been able to give it a nice extension past 10K. Well, when I show the graphs, we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail. What do I have here? I've got the SG01, which was then also updated with the over version, and it's basically the same thing. It's exactly the same shell, just blue color. It measures the same. I didn't see any difference. I've got two pairs of each. So, and I've got here the original SG03. These ones are using some JVC spiral dot tips, because these were the only tips I was able to get the sort of performance that I wanted out of them. Alright, so let's talk here about the sound of the SG03s in a little bit more detail. I've mentioned the SG03s already in a few other reviews, but I decided to do just this one specific for it. It is an IM that you can see that REECHO took its time to bring out something which was a definite improvement over the SG03 which it replaces. And you can say to a certain extent that yes, that has been achieved, that goal has been met. It is an improvement over the original SG03 without a question. However, I feel that the improvement was perhaps cut short by the fact that they provided the two nozzles, the silver and the silver as you see here, and the black that's over here. And with either nozzle, the sound that you get is basically the same. I mean, I can show you the graphs just now, like I said, and you will see very little or no difference between the two of them. Also, besides the fact that the nozzles basically do the same thing, which is a pity because there are a number of other IEMs, the Queen 1, Z4, the Mermaid, the the R2E3 Mermaid, sorry, also uses replaceable nozzles. Both of them also use replaceable nozzles, and they actually have given us two different tunings. And over here, I think that REECHO could have done the same thing. So to not only have two different nozzles, but also to try and attenuate a little bit the high energy that the S3 the SG03s has in the post pinna gain area. I added a 450 filter on the black one. So I took the black filter, the black nozzle, okay, removed the filter that it had there, took it out, and put a 450 grade filter there, okay, and that gave me a completely different tuning, and gave me the tuning that I personally believe should have been the second option that this IM could have had. The first option being, okay, with the silver nozzle, a more energetic mids, upper mids, and treble presentation, perhaps satisfying more those of us that are more detail inclined, and like vocals with a little bit more presence. And then a second nozzle modified like I did with those peaks subdued, and providing an overall more smoother, more warmer presentation. Any one of these IEMs here doesn't follow the Harman tendency. No, it follows a V-shaped tendency. The bass is always in each one of them very prominent, but very well executed. The one that has the best bass is the SG03 with the S01 SG03s. I'm actually going to just call it S from now on, just to be easier. So the S is the one that has the best bass, just marginally edging out the bass on the 01. But both of these have better bass than the original 03. Okay. In terms of mids and upper mids and treble, using the stock nozzle, the best one for me, my opinion, is the 01. Why? Because it's the one that's the most balanced with the bass that it has. It's the one that those peaks don't become aggressive, especially that 4, 5, 6K area there doesn't hurt me like it does over here. And this also has that peak very prominent, and coupled to a very big dip past those peaks. So the 03 ended up sounding a little bit lifeless. Good bass, but the rest was very lifeless. The 01 was the complete opposite. Amazing bass, amazing mids. It was, as some of you might recall when I reviewed it, it's basically an 03, okay, a blonde BL03 with better mids and better treble. That's it. That's what it is. So it's got the fun, the organic mids that the 03 have, but it's cleaned up the mids, the upper mids, cleaned up the treble, made it more detailed, and that's what the 01 is. And the 01 is still today, in my opinion, one of the best buys you can have under $40. Unquestionably, it's one of the best buys. It is a very, very nice IM. It sounds really good, and compared with the 03S with the stock silver nozzle, for me, it just is a better IM. The 03 might edge it out slightly at lower volumes because it has a little bit more detail. That's it. But the moment you give a little bit more detail, that scales nicely and it maintains its composure. This scales in a very let's say mid and upper mid manner, prominent first, which makes sound become a little bit aggressive, a little bit less satisfying, and you end up turning down the volume. Okay. With the modified nozzle, things change completely. With the modified nozzle, what we then have now in the mids, upper mids, and treble is very much a presentation which resembles the 01. So it's smooth, it's non-peaky. Male vocals are better, in my opinion. They sound more realistic. Female vocals are much better. It scales significantly better. Okay, and it becomes overall an IM that is superior to the 01. Is it by much? No, I have to say that it's not by much, but it is superior to the 01. It's an IM that does then do justice to its price. It's roughly $69, so it's in a price range which it's got a lot of competition. I got this particular one from Panon, by the way. So at $69 compared to this being $40, is there enough to justify the difference? I would say yes. There is enough to justify the difference, because ultimately there you're stuck with one tuning style. Over here you have the possibility of then always going to the silver nozzle if you want a presentation which is a little bit more detailed, if that is your thing. So that is worth it. However, like I said, I feel that they should have definitely provided the second tuning nozzle with a different damper, like I have done here in this modified one. I think that would have made the world in terms of becoming more appealing to a wider variety of people, because the way it is, the market as it is, and the amount of competition that you have to have something which really is a standout feature. And the most things you can add within the price range that you want to sell it for, the better. Don't. And the truth is, be it the silver nozzle or the black nozzle in their stock format, they don't measure differently. They sound the same. Anyway, just finishing up here now in terms of the technicalities. Detail retrieval is good in either setup, modified or with a stock nozzle. It's really good. Detail retrieval is always fantastic. In terms of soundstage, with the stock nozzle, a little bit bigger, but it also, you have the sensation that it's a little bit more forced, a little bit, let's say, fake. Okay. Imaging is about the same in either case. These are not really that much. Resolution in the stock silver nozzle a little bit better, okay. And then timbre and tonality with the modified version is significantly better. It's more realistic. It makes more sense, okay. Overall, the SG03s is a very capable IM, in my opinion. It's only hindered by the fact that it's a pity that second nozzle doesn't have that really different tuning applied to it. That, I think, would have been, really hitting the nail on the head. Okay, as compared to the competition, to the other IEMs that you have at its price range, it's like I said, this is not a Harman tuned IEM. So if you're wanting, or if you're looking for a Harman tuned IEM, this straight away gets excluded. If you compare it to the other IEMs which are similar to its tuning style, I would say listen to it. Honestly, listen to it. Keep in mind that having to modify it might be a possibility that you will have to consider to really get the maximum out of it, because I really honestly feel that the IM has been held back by not having that second nozzle with the different tuning. And that's it, guys. I mean, there's really not much more that I can say. I'll show you another graphs and we'll wrap it up. Okay, thank you. Hi guys, and welcome now to the REECHO SG03 graph section. Okay, so let's get some graphs out of the way here. Take this out, take this out, take this out. Okay, so this is the 03S with its silver nozzle on. So you have, as you can see, the base is relatively well executed. I mean, we're talking 60 to 70, so 10 dBs gain, so definitely a V shape, but it's okay. It's these peaks here which go above that 10 dB that cause a little bit of a havoc. And thank God that there's that dip there after 5K roughly. Otherwise it would really be complicated. So it kind of ends up giving us kind of like a W tuning, emphasis on the bass, on the mids, and then on the treble, with the dip in the transition from the upper mids into the treble area, and then the dip as well here in the lower mids. It's like I was saying in the review, it sounds good and it sounds fine. It's just that when you start pushing the volume, it really tries to hurt you, let's put it that way. Compared straight away with the SG03, which it replaces, it's not really in the bass where you see the difference. The 03 is a little bit more relaxed, as you can see here in the mid bass. You could argue that it's got a better executed bass. Yes, probably yes. But it also has those two peaks. They somehow just are more noticeable, especially this one here at 4 point something, and then it just drops off. So it's a much darker sounding IM. You definitely need to put a wide bore tip on it to be able to get any sort of treble in enough quantity for it to be, let's say, satisfying. So that's, I think, the biggest problem of the 03 always. So compared to the 03, the 03S is a significant upgrade. Compared to the SG01 or the SG01 over, you can see that there's a lot of similarities once again. Definitely a lot of similarities. The bass, I mean, the difference here is minimal to even be, let's say, perceivable. But then it's the fact that this is being brought down. So we've got everything within. So we've got roughly 60 to 68, you got about, well, 69 almost. You got a roughly 9 dB gain for the bass. But then the fact that the you know, the transition here of mids to upper mids is not as elevated as it is in the 03s case. It's less so. I mean, in the 03s case, we're talking about 60. We're talking 14 dBs. In the case of the 01, we're talking 11 dBs. So the fact that we have a much reduced pinna gain, let's put a peak of pinna gain, and then a tendency to kind of roll off, as you can see, it makes for the stock 01 being a much nicer listening to IEM than what the 03S is in its silver nozzle. With the black nozzle, it's exactly the same. I mean, let me just show you. With the black nozzle, it doesn't change. REECHO, there we go. SG03, black nozzle. As you can see, it is basically unchanged. Let me just put this in black so you guys can see it better. I honestly don't hear enough difference to even say that it's a different tuning. Okay, so that's why I don't even put the black nozzle here. So what did I do? I modified the black nozzle with a 450 filter, like I said, and I got this. And I think that this is way more agreeable. I've done away with those two peaks. I've plateaued everything, so everything now we have roughly a 10 dB gain for the bass and a 10 dB gain, actually a 9 dB gain, if you have to be precise, for the mids, upper mids and treble. I've maintained basically the rest of the information up top there, okay? And what this does now is it just makes for a way more pleasant listen, especially when you start increasing the volume. Everything scales nicely. And compared to, for example, the SG01, you can see it simulates more the SG01. It's got more detail up top, which is one of the areas where it will shine and surpass the SG01. And although it seems like it's got a lot more bass here, it's not as much as you'd think. So it's not this 2 or 3 dB difference that you see here. It's more in the quality of the impact that it becomes more incisive, okay? And I guess that's down to the high quality driver that they've used. So in this setup, the 03S, the black nozzle with the 450 filter is an absolute beast, and one that does then justify you having, you giving it a chance and you saying, okay, fine, I'm going to get it, I'm going to modify it, and I will have a nice IM. I hope, honestly, I do hope that REECHO does take my suggestion and perform this mod because it's very easy for them to do, as I'm sure it will greatly improve the overall satisfaction level of newer customers, and the older customers, I'm sure that they can come up with some solution for that as well. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little video of mine, focusing a little bit more on the SG03s. As always, like and subscribe. Any questions, please feel free to ask. All right, you take care now. Bye bye.